You nearly sat on me.
Sorry.
On my arm, I mean.
Sorry about that. Lightspeed Spanish, podcast number 12, and for absolute beginners. And today we're dealing with sentence construction. Bueno, Cintia.
Bueno, Gordon.
Aparte del brazo, ¿qué tal?
Muy bien. ¿Y tú cómo estás?
Estoy muy bien, sí.
Me alegro.
Fantásticamente. Bueno, hoy, ¿qué?
Bueno, ¿y tú cómo estás?
Oh, yo estoy fantásticamente, Cintia. Sí. Sí. Bueno, so today, sentence construction. Lots of our students, well, certainly in my experience, lots of Spanish students get a little bit panicky when it comes to sentence construction in Spanish because they believe that everything is in a different order. And so because of that belief, they start making the most bizarre sentences I've ever heard in my life, because they believe that everything has to be mixed up. And of course, that's not the case. There are really two fundamental things that we're going to discuss. Is the order of the descriptive word in Spanish, yeah?
Okay.
And also one thing that we have in English that the Spanish don't have, that demands a change of order as well, which we'll come to. So, sentence construction, Cynthia. A red car in Spanish is?
Straight away. Okay, a red car is un coche rojo.
Yeah. Or in English, a red car is a car red. So we say red car, they say car red. We say dead cat, they say cat dead. Okay? If you want to talk about dead cats, of course. It's really as simple as that. Okay? So what would happen, Cynthia? Let's say, if you said, I have a white house. How would you say that?
Tengo una casa blanca.
Casa Blanca. The White House. Okay. And how would you say, I have a big White House?
Tengo una casa blanca grande.
Okay, so both the descriptive words, the adjectives go afterwards. Yeah?
Yes.
Now, what's interesting about this is that, and we're going to come to this in the next podcast, that everything in the sentence must agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So if you were going to have that sentence and say, I have two big white houses, how does that go?
I have two big white houses. Tengo dos casas grandes y blancas.
There you
Or
are.
blancas y grandes.
Yeah. So you can choose. You can choose the order and that you put
Yeah,
them in.
there's no order like in English. It has to follow.
In English, we do tend to have an order, don't we?
Yes.
We don't say white big houses. We say big white houses.
Yes.
Yeah. And it would
Everything.
sound strange if it wasn't that way.
We don't have it. Way.
So there you
Good
are.
For you.
That's easy, isn't it?
Bad for us.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything more to that, or is that about all there is to it?
Well, what you need in the sentence is the article,
Mm-hmm.
the,
Mhm.
or what would be the word for una? Because it's not
It's
the same
the
word.
indefinite article.
Okay, indefinite article you call it.
See?
Because we have a different
I'm
naming.
very good at grammar.
Okay,
Okay.
because we call it determinante, but it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So that matches the noun. The noun is the naming word,
Mm-hmm.
like house, dog, hair, I don't know, curtain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once you know if the noun is feminine or masculine,
Mm-hmm.
then you build the sentence around it. So, for example, in mine we're talking about house, casa, and we know casa is feminine
Mm-hmm.
and singular, it's only one casa, one
Mhm.
house. Okay, so then we've got a house. Now that a has to be feminine and has to be singular.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be una casa. And now, then we move into the adjective.
Mm-hmm.
Adjective is a describing word. So what adjective would you like?
Red.
Red.
Red, okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right. If the adjective finishes, usually, if it finishes with an O, you can make it feminine by changing the O for an A. So that would be una casa roja. Now if we make it plural and we say houses, casas, now we have a feminine plural. Plural is more than one. Am I going too fast?
Not for me, but let's just...
Sorry. So we would have, so casas. So we have to match the, what was it again?
Indefinite article.
Indefinite article and the adjective. So then we have to say unas.
Some.
Casas, yes, some houses, casas. Rojas.
Reds.
So everything has to match the noun.
So everything has to agree. And in the next podcast we're going to deal with masculine and feminine. Cynthia's jumped the gun a little bit, but that's okay. I'll forgive it.
Oh, sorry.
And that's all right, Cynthia. It's all right. Don't worry about it. And we'll discuss that in a bit more in depth. So, car red car, yeah. So that's one major difference. The other major difference that we are accustomed to using in English language is the apostrophe S. Okay, the apostrophe S. Bob's car.
We don't have it.
It doesn't exist in Spanish now, because what Cynthia's just explained about if you make something plural, what would happen is there would be a massive confusion if there was an apostrophe S, when to make something plural you have to put an S on it. You would end up with, I don't know, Bob's cars, something like that. So what do the Spanish say? Instead of Bob's car, they say the car of Bob. Okay? So that's another sort of key difference in sentence construction. Yeah? So instead of saying Bob's car in Spanish, that would be
el coche de Bob.
El coche de Bob. Okay. Now there's an interesting thing which I'd like to touch on. I was mentioning this to Cynthia earlier. There's a word called de that we've just used. The car of Bob. Now we don't typically speak like that in Spanish. When we're talking about ownership of something, we'll tend to use apostrophe S. Bob's car, Vivian's house, Jimmy's hat. Yeah. Okay, I'm just making these up as I go. You've probably noticed. However, we say a bottle of wine, and we don't say a wine's a bottle. Okay?
Don't even get me started with that.
All right. So, we say a bottle of wine. Now, what happens when you divide the sentence with a de, a bottle of wine? The de is kind of like a divider. That means that nothing after the de is affected by the information before. So where normally a sentence must agree all the way through, if it's the red houses, everything must be feminine, plural all the way through. When you say a bottle of white wine, okay, you say una botella. So there we've got single, feminine. Yeah, una botella de. Dividing line, nothing has to affect the next bit. So una botella de vino blanco. Alright, so the blanco is referring to the wine. Wine, because wine's a masculine word, el vino blanco. So you don't have to say una botella de vina blanca. Okay?
You know why that is?
And why is that, Cynthia?
Because we've got two sentences really.
Yeah.
And one has one noun, which is botella, which is feminine, and then we've got another noun, which is vino.
That's right.
So blanco, white, is going with vino. It's not going. The bottle is not white; it's the wine.
That's right.
So it has to match that noun.
So it's something that some of our students before have said. Why don't you say? Why isn't it vina blanca? Yeah, and it's because of this word de. They splits, just like Moses split the Red Sea, splits a sentence. There's a metaphor for you. Okay, and so you don't need to worry. Okay, so watch out for that and listen for it when in our conversations.
Remember
you'll hear
Moses.
Remember Moses. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. We're going to leave that there. That's a very basic sentence construction. There's a lot more information and some examples and some tests in the handouts, the help sheets. And we'll see you in the next podcast when we're talking about gender. Okay, hasta luego.
Adiós.